So today we're going to be checking out this Rite air spring system made by Firestone. I'm going to be installing this on my 2013 Chevy Silverado Z71 edition. This is the truck I use all the time for my lawn care business, hauling my trailers around. It has always made my truck squat. To do that, I've wanted to install one of these systems for a long time, just never have made the investment. I'm also going to be installing the WirelessONE by Airlift. This is a tankless compressor system to fill up the airbags. I'm going to do that in a separate video. Today's video is just going to be about the air springs. The kit does come with everything you need to do the install. It comes with all the hoses, zip ties, bolts. There's supposed to be no drilling in this kit. It should bolt on to all factory locations. We'll kind of see how that goes as we go through it. But here are the actual airbags that are going to go in there. The only extra thing I did end up buying was a little cutter. And this cutter is made to cut this hose, because if you cut it with a regular set of snips, it will actually crimp the hose down. This will actually give you a crisp cut that won't crimp down the hose. I am going to have links to all of this in the description to show you exactly what I bought. I bought everything off of Amazon. The total cost of the entire kit, including the WirelessONE system, was right around $600. So I guess enough talking about this thing. Let's get underneath the truck. Let's start figuring out what we need to do to get this thing installed. The first thing we got to get off is this bump stop. There's a bolt that's up here. It looks like there's no nut on the top. There's just a bolt straight up. So I think what I'm pretty much going to do is just cut this thing off, because you're not going to be reusing the bump stops. They're pretty much shot. I don't really have the tools to get up into here, so I'm just going to cut it off and then unbolt it if I can. So as you can see, it's pretty thick rubber, and I just used a razor knife to do it with. It takes a little bit of work, but you can get it off of there, and then you have access to that bolt. So just so you know, if you do have the tools to get up in that bump stop, it is a 10mm bolt that goes in there. So now we're going to be installing the upper bracket where the bump stop was. All you need is, there's a spacer on top of the bracket. You'll need the bracket, and then what they call the flat bolt. It's the blue bolt with the Torx or the Allen wrench. If you have a Torx bit for your socket wrench, it would definitely make this easier. But I don't have that tool, so we're just going to make do. It does have some room for adjustment back and forth in that bolt. I'm not sure yet if we are going to need that adjustment. I just put it flat to the frame at this point, and we'll adjust it as we need it. So the next step is going to be doing some pre-assembly here on the workbench. It's really not much. It's just the actual air spring and the lower bracket. It is really important that you pay attention to the directions and make sure you have this bracket facing the right way. I just noticed in the instructions that all the instructions show the left side of the vehicle, which is, I assume, the driver's side of the vehicle. I'm actually started on the passenger side, so I'm having to reverse everything that the pictures are showing. So now we're going to be attaching the air spring to the lower bracket. I do have the bracket facing the right way for the truck at this point. So to attach the air spring to the lower bracket, you're going to be using one of these flange, it's a 3/4 inch flange bolt to attach that. There's only one hole in the bracket in the top that this can be attached to. It does say to leave it loose to where you can actually move the bracket around. You're going to want to be able to shift that once you're under the truck and get it into place. So now it looks like, let's just take this bracket under the truck, start getting it fitted in there, and we'll go from there. Now I do want to point out there is a tab on the top, and these holes right here, you have to get that tab in one of those holes or it will actually cause a problem with the airbag. So now what I've got to do is get this bracket up here and crush the airbag down. And you do have to kind of avoid all the other things that are up there. Remember to get that tab into one of those holes, and as you can see, you can't turn it anymore. The lower bracket down here, the U-bolts that hold your leaf springs on, it's actually notched for the bracket, so make sure the bracket slides in between those U-bolts. So now that we got the bracket and the airbag in there, we want to start bolting it down. First thing you want to do is there's like a U-bolt here. It comes in from the back, the tire side. If you've got the jacks, like I don't have jacks tall enough to jack this truck up. If you had some jacks to jack your truck up and get your tire out of the way, it would probably make this a heck of a lot easier than the way I'm doing it. Getting some jacks that I can jack this truck up is another one of those things that I've got to purchase. Again, make sure you're paying attention to all the wires, cables, and hoses. You want to make sure you don't put any of those in a bind as you're tightening all this down. There's two long bolts that go in from the top. There's just carriage bolts. There's a little square hole they'll go into and lock into place. And then here at the bottom, there's just this horseshoe piece that goes underneath your axle to lock this end down. Now what you want to do is slowly start tightening things down. It does say the U-bolt over here that's going around the leaf spring. You want to tighten that down first because you want to pull that bracket into the leaf spring tight before you tighten this one down. You kind of want to go back and forth between the two bolts. You want them tightened down evenly. So now the air valve that's on top of the bag, the piece that you put through that little hole at the top, there is a nylon bolt that's going to go on top of that, and that locks the bag down to the top side. The bolt size for that is a 15/16. You can get a socket up there or a wrench. With this being the air valve, that's why I'm using the hand socket instead of the Milwaukee. I just want to be real careful with this because this is the air valve where all the air will go into the bag. Now the next thing that goes on is the air fitting. Right where you put that bolt, this will go right down the middle of it. This is where the air hose connects to the bag. And it is a 13mm wrench. So that's really all there is to the installation of the Rite system. I'm not going to do the hoses yet because of the fact that I'm going to be installing this WirelessONE system, and with that I'm going to do all the hoses. So I'm going to do that as a separate video. Make sure you check that video out also to see how I run all the hoses and install this WirelessONE system. One part of the installation that I'm not doing because I'm installing the WirelessONE system is they actually send these little valves that you can install. It's just like a valve, like a valve stem like you'd have on your wheel. You can install these in there, and then you could just fill up your airbags off of a compressor if you didn't want to install that WirelessONE system or a system like it. So you could do it just like this and be done, and just put hoses to these, and that would work the same, but I think the WirelessONE system or a system like that would definitely make it a little more convenient, and you'd probably use it more and keep up with the exact amount of air that needs to be in it. It was really a pretty simple installation. You know, there was things that could have made it easier, like having jacks, or if you have a lift to lift your truck up. That would definitely make it easier so you're not crawling around on the creeper on your back. But it did hold true to the fact that there was no drilling involved in this installation. You used that one factory spot where the bumper was, and then everything else was just the brackets that come in the installation kit. So what you saw there was a combination of installing both sides. Some parts I was installing on the passenger side, some parts I was installing on the driver's side. The only real difference of the passenger side versus the driver's side is on the passenger side is where my exhaust system came out, and they actually send you a guard in there that guards the heat. It's like a heat shield against the rubber of the air system or the airbag itself. It just guards against that heat coming off the exhaust system. Other than that, the other side is exactly the same. It really goes really quick, and it's a pretty simple installation, I think, to do it yourself. You know, like I was saying, there's a lot of other tools that if you have them and they're available to you, it would make the installation even easier than what I did. I didn't use any jacks, jack stands, never took the wheel off, anything like that. So if you're able to use either jacks, jack stands, car lifts, if you're able to take the wheel off, all those things would make this installation even easier, but you don't have to have those things to do this installation. So that is it for this one. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I will answer them the best that I can. So make sure you check out the next video that is me installing the WirelessONE system. That is what's going to air up these airbags. It looks like it's a pretty neat system the way it works, so it's going to be kind of cool to get it on there and be able to utilize this system. So make sure you check that video out too. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of video, and make sure you check out some of my other videos, but especially the WirelessONE video. And I hope you guys enjoyed.